morning, or yeah, still morning. Morning, everybody. I'm Govert, and I'm a co-founder of BitCar. So just by way of introduction, we got involved in blockchain tech about 5 years ago, and the first 2 years, we were basically frog marched out of offices and told we're a bunch of quacks. And then we kind of started to believe that maybe they're right. And then sort of about 3 years ago, it suddenly got really hot in blockchain, and it just went bonkers. But by then, we had 2 companies that we had been working on for quite some time. One of them was called Power Ledger. That then did an ICO and raised $45 million, which is quite good because we'd been looking at things like 50,000 when we started, and we thought that was good. So when that raising came in, that really accelerated that company. And the other company kind of in our portfolio was BitCar, which was even older than Power Ledger, which I'll talk about today. And we created those 2 blockchain businesses. They came from the blockchain sector and are now a few years in. So today it's my pleasure to talk to you about asset tokenization, which is what BitCar really is. And let's go with that. Yeah. So there's a bit of legal terms and conditions that you can all have a good read. Everyone read that? Yep. Any problems? All right, move on. All right, so what is BitCar? BitCar provides robust fractional ownership of what we'd call top collectible cars. Like, I think it's fair to say 99% of cars depreciate, but there is 1% that does not depreciate and has a very different kind of market. Let's call that top collectible cars. Those cars are displayed and admired like art, and they're not driven. And we target appreciating value cars. And I guess the core reason why some of those cars appreciate is supply and demand, a bit like art or other assets, property, that kind of thing. So in our case, the owners, in other words, if you come into the platform, you can buy a minimum amount, say £20. I think $20 US is actually the minimum amount. And you then become a legal owner, a legal co-owner of the car. And you have certain voting rights as well on the blockchain. So you could say you have day-to-day control over your interest. The cars are, for example, over storage and display. So if you buy £20 on the platform and you do absolutely nothing with it, then in 5 years' time, each car that's on the platform is sold by us at the then value. And what we do is we then take the amount of pounds we receive for the cars, because the cars are stored in the UK. Let's say we sell it for £500,000. We then would buy Ethereum instantly with that, and we would wire that Ethereum to all of those fractional owners. They receive that at their Ethereum address, which holds their car tokens, and they can then liquidate it into whatever off-ramp onto fiat currency as they desire. However, you can do something after you bought your £20, and you can flip your interest or trade it as you like down the pub or as you feel fit, and we'll go on to that a bit more later. So what is BitCar? BitCar is effectively gives people a chance to speculate on the value of cars. And as I say, you get digital car coins. We call them those. Those are the representation of your interest. And they would be stored in a crypto wallet, and they're traded akin to, let's call it loosely, bearer instruments. So I use those words with great care. But effectively, a bearer instrument is whoever has it is the owner of it. And if you have the private key to a token, that's like a bearer instrument as well. You own that instrument, so you have control over it. All right, so that's a very brief summary. So cars not driven, just purely for speculation. And as I said, there's a small part of the market where these cars are very valuable. Actually, go back. All right, I'm going to ask a question. Does anybody know what is the first car model that we have on the platform? Because there's a little gift waiting for you, for Jenny, right now. Can anybody name the first car we have on the platform?
Red Ferrari?
Yes, red Ferrari, but we require a couple of 599. Good, this is very close. Anybody finish it off? It's a 5. GTO, who said that? There is the winner, Jenny. Jenny, where are you? Gift card of $20 US, ownership in the card coming to 0. We've got to liven this up a bit, right? Okay. So there is a picture of said car, which I did just show a minute ago. So I think this gentleman here, Jenny, this gentleman here, he just said red Ferrari. Come on. I mean, one more winner. That's one more winner. This is a religious experience, BitCar. We are not a cult. Anyway, bit of fun, good stuff. Right, so that is a car that we actually own, and we've just been to Goodwood Festival of Speed. We spent 4 days there with the car, and we had 37 people per minute go past our stall. Jenny and our team nabbed about 5 or 6 of them per minute. So we had a huge volume of people that inspected, saw the car. And this 599 GTO is the last one Ferrari ever made. They put the plaque on it as well. And we can never be sure whether Ferrari is completely correct about that. Their reputation is, normally they're right, but they sometimes make a couple more. So we can't guarantee it, but they did put the plaque on the dash as the last 599 GTO ever made. There's 599 of those cars that were ever made. And one day, China might allow the import of these cars into China. There's more than 1 million millionaires in China. Some of them may want to collect Ferraris. This is a super limited car. So let me give you an example of what's going on in this part of the market. But before I do that, I'm going to start with the tokenization. I did promise to talk about tokenization. So you can see the user on the top left of the picture acquires fiat currency, moves it to cryptocurrency, Ethereum. We also have our native BitCar cryptocurrency itself as well. And then they move to the platform, and the platform then issues them car tokens, which they receive back to them. So that's the asset tokenization and the flow of money and tokens. More on that later as well. So what do you exactly own? You get a piece of an undivided interest in the car's title. And that's evidenced by the car coins you have in your wallet. What is a car coin? Well, to be exact, this car on our platform is priced at 561,000 US dollars. Apologies that we're talking US dollars and not pounds, but it's a global platform, so we've got to use a currency using US dollars. So that means if you now go to Etherscan and you type in 599 GTO number 1, you'll see all of those tokens sitting there on the blockchain. And each one token represents $1. And so the way we do that is, so when the car's on the platform and it's sold initially, it's $1 per coin, meaning in future you can always see whether the value's gone up or down according to what that car's trading for. If on an exchange they're asking for $2, then it's gone double what was initially paid for, to make it easy to understand. So the price of that coin floats based on supply and demand, and whoever is the coin's legal owner, it owns the legal fraction. No matter what. If you lose that coin, then your ownership is lost as well. So that's the way that it works. Is my fractional ownership in the car reliant on BitCar? No. It's a separate coin on the blockchain. If BitCar was gone, you'd still own that coin in the car interest. So it's when I said in the opening first line, I said robust ownership. We've gone to great lengths over 3 years and spent a lot of money to make sure it's robust and legitimate. So back to cars a moment. Look at that one. Did anybody say what car that is? Was it too easy? Well, yeah, it says so on the bottom right. Just checking we're all still awake. There it is. So look at the price of that car. There's an example. The thing has gone up from can't read that from there, yeah, from 250,000 to, several multi-million-dollar car over the period. So it was $3.2 million, and that happened from 2012 to over 5 years. It went like that. So that's an example. So on the left of that graph, you can see from Haggerty, they produced some numbers on this, and you can see classic cars outperform stocks, private equity, and collectors' coins over a single and 3-year period. So these top-end cars are a real kind of collectible asset and have value. And here's another example, a UK McLaren 96. Look at the price of this thing. It's gone absolutely ballistic. That car is $15 million, and it was well under that, and over that's over 7 or 8 years. So in the top, very small section, some of these cars are highly, highly valuable. I mean, the Ferrari F40 and F50 there, same again, very limited supply, dramatic increase in value. Why? Because of supply and demand. And, now that there's no interest being given by banks and it's very difficult to get return on money, assets that are scarce are getting good value. So I can't see that changing anytime soon. So let's have a look at 3 GTO models briefly. On the top left there is the 250 GTO. That's the first model that Ferrari made in the GTO chain. And that's now worth $52 million, the world's most expensive car. Then the second one is the bottom right. The Ferrari 288 GTO is now £2.4 million, and that happened over the last 5 years. And then the other one is our car. That was the third and last GTO range. GTO just means super scarce and rare from Ferrari. So we're saying, there's a potential for our car to appreciate. There it is, $561,000. And it is the last one they ever made, we believe. And if you click on that QR code, you would go straight to our website about it, and you can see more details about it there. So media coverage is growing on BitCar. We've got BBC coverage, we've got Express, and we've got a number of partners, and including Cointelegraph and other newspapers and that kind of thing. So who are the buyers that we're setting out to get? Well, crypto now, at the time of writing, $288 billion in crypto. The public as well, retail makes a great gift, or speculative investment gifts, that kind of thing. Family offices, of course, and car collectors, they could share ownership now with the public. They can retain percentages and therefore effectively raise money for further museum collections. So that's what BitCar is about. And the future possibilities are gamification, autonomous vehicles. Certainly in gamification, people are paying thousands and thousands of dollars for gold, which in these games, and it doesn't even exist, and they're paying thousands of dollars. They got nothing, right? And they're paying thousands for property in Minecraft, right? And it doesn't exist, virtual. So we're saying, hey, we could plug that in, our tokens, and you actually link to a real-world asset. So there's a really interesting scope for growth there, I think. All right, so more on tokenization now for people that this is what we promised we'd talk about as well. So compliance with legal acts and directives is obviously really, really important. We have spent over £650,000 in legal costs over 3 to 4 years to make sure that this is compliant. European countries in the UK all have local laws, and they have EU ones as well. There are EU laws here in the UK that sit side by side with UK law, and so you need to examine all of those. They are different for every country. Managed investment schemes are typical of something that would come up where there's tight regulation around. And some assets have further restrictions, such as registratable assets like property. They have special EU provisions, legal provisions and restrictions that you can look up in the various acts. The trading costs and opening hours for tokens kind of destroys the old system. Once you buy £20 of this car and you receive your car coin, to send it to somebody else costs you the gas price, which is 2 cents or so. And you can do that 24/7. So as soon as public information comes out, you can do what you want with it. If an announcement that China opens to these cars and they're going to suck up all of these great cars, you can trade immediately. If it's on a stock exchange, you've got to wait till Monday morning if it comes out on the weekend, right? So in terms of the trading mechanism for tokenized assets is vastly superior than the limited old systems called the stock exchange. And the compliance and transfer costs on those are huge. The transparency is weak. Every single car token on our cars, you can look up on the blockchain immediately at any time. Since inception, you can see every movement of every coin. You know exactly where they are, what address is holding them. The public audit and transparency is vastly superior to the old system. And that's why there's so many banks and other regulators trying to stop cryptocurrency, because it disrupts the party they're having and the costs that they're charging. We all know that. But how can you ultimately stop a system which is vastly superior? I mean, talking about crypto generally, we use a bit of paper and we hand that bit of paper to somebody else and we say that's worth £5. And then you say, and then we've got all these regulators saying, oh my God, AML, KYC, and yet we're allowing cash to move around, and then you say in the same breath, cryptocurrency, well, actually, every Bitcoin can be traced from every address which it was at. So it's actually brilliant from a regulatory perspective compared to cash. So, you know, JP Morgan and friends having a great time profiting on Bitcoin while simultaneously slagging it off. I thought I'd just say that. Okay. Is that worth saying?
Absolutely.
Do we agree? Who agrees with that? Look at that. Thank you very much. I mean, let's have a clap. JP Morgan, move over, come on, give up. You're ripping everybody off, you know, and at least admit how much you're buying on BitCar next time when you say it's a scam, right? And then you buy billions of it, okay? Whatever. Moving on. Custodianship of tokens is rapidly advancing as well and allowing mainstream players in. One of the problems with having digital tokens is big players don't know how to safely handle it and keep it, and they might lose it, and you know, and so there are some great UK companies actually offering custodianship of tokens, and that's a service now that we will likely use as well. So your car coins could be held with this professional custodian, and you can then register with them and move them. And if you lose, you know, they help you with all of that stuff. It's not really core business for us. But right now, you're the owner of your own tokens, and you need to manage a private key. But as we move forward and platforms like this continue and property and all the others come out, the custodianship is moving forward nicely, and that will allow some of the bigger players to come into the space as well. So just a quick shot here of the platform. So on the top left is your trading address. That's an Ethereum address. And then on the right, we have a storage address. So when you buy a piece of car, it would arrive, the car coins would arrive at your trading address. But you also have the opportunity to register a storage address. And a storage address would be a cold wallet that you have that's never been online, and you can move the car coins there, and then they're super safe, you know, because it's not hot, as we call it. Hot means it's online, cold means it's not online. And so if someone bought $10,000, you know, we'd recommend you move it to your cold storage address to keep it super safe. Bottom left there is a Bitcoin cryptocurrency balance in this configuration for display only. And then there's an Ethereum balance. And then at the bottom, this is your garage. This particular snapshot shows somebody owning 3,173 tokens of that GTO. And they can see that every time you actually buy a bit of this car, we're also escrowing a little bit of the BitCar cryptocurrency. Why are we doing that? Well, that's part of the tokenomics. For you familiar with tokenomics, how do we fund our operation? We do not charge fees. Instead, we are built around tokenomics. So people who buy these cars don't get charged fees. And there are other reasons for that. We had the VAT people wanted to get involved and charge that, and we thought it's too hard. So it's easier not to do fees. Okay, I've got to wrap this up. So when you buy pieces of the car, you're presented with this screen, and so it's a piece of Ethereum on the right. You'll exchange it after agreeing to our terms and conditions. And this is coming soon. This is our exchange, where once you've bought your £20 or whatever it is in the car, you can plug it into our exchange and look for, you can name your price for it, and if somebody wants to buy it, it just gets swapped out in a very simple exchange. So that is important. It's really an introductory site for buyers and sellers of those coins so that they can trade them as they like. And so we're coming towards the end, and looks like we are at the end. So if there's any questions, please.
Do we have anything on Slido for this one? Are there any questions on Slido? We'll just, yeah, here we go. You've got loads of questions on Slido. Perhaps you can take a couple of them and, yeah.
Let's have a crack at that and see if there's any ones we want to respond to. So assets that are scarce are holding or gaining value. So how does rare sports car price growth compare to holding underlying crypto? That's a good question. I mean, no one knows the value of Bitcoin, right? Or Ethereum, we just don't know. I mean, it's totally speculative. What you can say is the difference between a crypto and a car coin is that, like the old days of the US dollar used to have a piece of gold behind it. So when you had your note, you knew there was a piece of gold. It was safe. And they took that away, and we put it back. So now when you get a car coin, you have a piece of car underneath it. And so the risk you're taking is that car going to be valueless, you know? And we are saying, well, it's a very rare, expensive, collectible Ferrari, so that's the risk that you're taking. It is similar to gold. I'd say buying a piece of the car is similar to gold. Yeah. So what's the monetization model? And I just touched on that a moment ago. We said we use tokenomics, so there are no fees involved. And so what we do is we have our own native cryptocurrency, BitCar, and that gets escrowed with every sale, and so the supply of that gets locked up over time. And if you lock up the supply of that coin, you might say that over time it could go up in value. And that's kind of there's a standard tokenization, tokenomics model. Binance, for example, they burn all their coin, and so they're, so they get rid of it that way. We don't get rid of it that way. We lock it up in transactions, which is different. So what about this business? Couldn't it have been done with DLT tokenization? What about this business? Couldn't it? Well, maybe it could have been done that way, but we've done it this way. I think it's transparent, it has public audit access, and that kind of thing. Any questions from the crowd? We've got all these questions here. Anybody? Let's take some live questions.
I will just take two if you don't mind, because we're running short of time. So maybe there's one here and one here.
Hi, thanks for the interesting presentation. I'm relatively new to Bitcoin, so forgive me for the basic nature of my question. Who is the fiduciary or the custodian of the asset? Who decides when to buy, when to sell? What about storage?
All right, let's limit the question there. There's lots of questions.
Yeah.
All right. So we have an agent model on our platform. So an agent is appointed, and they are the responsible entity for selecting the car and managing the storage and that kind of thing. So the first agent acquired that 599 GTO, and the first agent had picked an entity in the UK where it's stored, and they don't have a lot to do because there's no management of the asset in this case. It's not like an orchard with oranges where you squeeze the juice out and send it off to the holders. There's nothing really to do here. There's nothing to manage. And in terms of the sale, we've said up front that the car stays on the platform for 5 years, and then it gets liquidated by one of the auction houses and that kind of thing. But I will say, remember that the owners have the right to vote, and the key vote that they make is in 3 months before the 5 years is up. They have they will have a vote, and it'll be, do they want to extend it to 10 years or not? And that's a key vote. And if they say, yeah, we'll extend it, it'll stay for 10 years. It's a one-time vote only. Can't go on after that. It will be, the maximum date will be 10 years. And if they say no, if they see the price has gone up pretty large, they might decide to go and let it go after 5 years. So that's kind of the backstop liquidity, right? Whereas during the 5 years, people can trade as they like. Thank you for that question. I hope that.
Thank you. We've got one up the front here. Thank you. Last question.
Yes, thank you. I've been a fan for a long time. Also was in the Power Ledger ICO, and it was one of my more successful ICOs when I got out. So that was, I have a question. How would you go about a fallback mechanism if Ethereum went down?
Yeah, okay. Well, congratulations on your Power Ledger. It was a 20-bagger for most people, and it's still above the ICO price today. I think that deserves a clap to Power Ledger. They've done a great job. Thanks to that. I mean, it's amazing. And they won the Richard Branson Startup of the Year award recently on Necker Island. So I'm a founder of that. My business partner, John's still on the board there helping that. So that was great. We still have a list of everybody who owns the token. So we're not mission critical on the Ethereum blockchain. We're not like, we can replace the tokens and launch it on a different chain if we wanted to. It's not that hard. And because we have a good list of everything, even if Ethereum goes down, the snapshot of the chain will be available. And it's not mission critical in our case. So we thought about that once before. And I'm hoping Ethereum will do very well. It's come a long way, I think. It has good programmable code on chain. It has a large development team, and so we're using that.
Thank you so much. And I'm a Power Ledger holder too, so congratulations. Yeah, we'll have a clap. Thank you. But the tokenization of assets is being increasingly important, and it's been fascinating just to see exactly how BitCar works. So thank you so much for coming and being with us today. Big hand.
Okay.
Thank you.